Charlie Cox, is currently appearing in Nick Payne's ingenious Incognito off-Broadway. Today we're at the W Hotel in Union Square to catch up with the Daredevil star and find out why he picked this project for his return to the stage. So, Charlie Cox, thank you very much for doing this today. Last on stage in 2010 at the Don Mar.
Yep.
What made you think, yes, I want to come back to the stage, I want to be off-Broadway in Incognito?
Well, you know, I think as an actor, I certainly am always looking for an opportunity to do a play. I think working in the theatre is probably the pinnacle of creativity for us, because we get obviously this rehearsal period and you get to really explore characters and stories and stuff in a way that you don't with film and television because of the schedule. And with the break I got from Daredevil this year was a perfect amount of time, and so I asked my agents to look out for something, and this was the first thing they sent me.
So Nick Payne was behind Constellations on Broadway last year that was extremely well received.
Yeah.
Had you seen that?
I hadn't. Sadly, I missed it because I'm friends with Ray Spall, who did it in London.
Yeah.
And I was here when it was there, and I was there when it was here, so I kind of missed it, sadly. So.
But did you sort of think, okay, well, Nick Payne is a name to recognise?
Oh yes, I knew who. Yes, of course. And also Nick has recently been writing for a new show called The Crown, which is on Netflix. So I was aware. I knew all about that because the folks at Netflix have been talking very fondly about him. And
now, the thing about Nick is, I like to think he's very accessible, but also complex, isn't he?
Yes.
So if you could talk to me a bit about the world.
Well, he's clear. I would hate to kind of speak for him, but he's evidently got an incredibly astute scientific mind, and he's fascinated with memory and the brain, and a lot of that was part of Constellations, and of course it's very evident in this show that that's one of the main themes, or many of the main themes, if you will.
And there are 4 actors playing 21 characters. Mm-hmm. How's that been, tackling that? You're playing 6?
I play 6 characters, yes. I mean, it's been really enjoyable. I think if you sit down as an audience member and you try and follow it in the way you would follow a traditional play, I think you might get lost quite quickly. If you just kind of sit back and you allow the play to happen to you, if you allow it to be more like an experience, you'll be surprised at the end how much of it you kind of retained. And that's, I think, one of the points Nick is making, is that the brain doesn't function in the way that we like to think it functions. Which is, I guess, a kind of an odd paradox, but. So, I mean,
the play is sort of looking at the brain and brain function.
Yeah, and memory particularly.
And the character that is breaking everybody's hearts is Henry, your character. So can you talk to me a bit about Henry? So
Henry is based on 2 real people. One of them was called Henry Molaison, who was very famous. He was known as Patient HM, and in the 1930s he suffered from epilepsy and he had seizures, and they removed part of his hippocampus on both sides in order to kind of prevent him from having these epileptic seizures. The byproduct of that operation was that he lost the ability to store new memory, so he kind of lived in what they call a permanent present tense. The other character that he's kind of mixed with is a gentleman named, a British pianist, concert pianist named Clive Wearing. There's a wonderful documentary on the BBC about him, and he suffered a headache and developed amnesia from a kind of a headache that turned into kind of some sort of aneurysm or something in his head. His wife would leave the room and go to the loo, and she'd return, and he would emotionally respond as if he hadn't seen her in years, and that would happen multiple times a day, over and over and over again. So the character, this Henry that I play in this play, is a kind of a mixture of those 2, which is why there is piano playing in the play.
Do you have any dressing room rituals to get you into the zone, or do you just sort of walk off the street, walk onto the stage, and you hit the ground running?
People feel very differently, obviously, about this, but I don't feel like it's something that you've got to prepare yourself to do. I almost feel like sometimes that can get in the way. I think sometimes you've got to trick yourself into being completely unprepared. I mean, you do a lot of work, obviously, in the build-up, in the preparation, in the rehearsal room, and you really kind of make sure that you're very clear with what the story is and each scene and the purpose of the scene and the characters and all that kind of stuff. But then once you're at that stage, you really want to be very free on stage. You want to feel like anything can happen, and that you can, you might find something new and different and interesting that you never found before.
Now, a lot of kids will be watching this. There's an urban legend going around that you almost didn't get into acting because you can't sing.
That's true, very true, yeah.
So, everyone watching, take note, because you're at school.
I'm a terrible singer,
They were just doing musicals all the time.
The irony is I was always in the chorus but I was always in the chorus whose sole purpose is just to kind of sing, but I was always asked to mime because I was putting everyone else off. So
you never know what's going to happen, because fast forward to drama school and you leave drama school in the middle of drama school to go work with Al Pacino.
Yes,
so you know, it worked out well in the end.
It did. I mean, the next school that I went to, my high school, they did straight plays, and I started to get, you know, a few parts in those plays. So that's when my love for acting really developed.
So you've worked with Al Pacino, obviously, we mentioned that. Are there any other dream people that you'd love to work with? Putting it out there.
You know, the thing that I think I'll take to the grave with me is that after that I worked with Robert De Niro. So I had a chance to do a film with him, which was, so, you know, two of the greats of acting.
And how old were you at this point?
So I was 23, I think.
So crazy young.
Yeah.
So Netflix, we have to talk about this.
Okay.
So, like, the internet, I started going on an internet spiral about what's going on. Is there going to be a season 3? Are you going to be back?
Sadly, I'm the wrong person to ask, because I'm kind of normally the last to find out. My understanding is that at the moment we're focusing on the next show that I will be part of will be The Defenders, sometime toward the end of
So you'll be donning the superhero outfit again?
I will, and that's very exciting, because, you know, I mean, that's still Daredevil, of course, but it's his team up with the other 3 characters who have shows on Netflix. I think Jessica Jones has obviously been released. Luke Cage will come out in September, I believe, and Iron Fist sometime after that. And then we'll team up and we'll do that show. And then, you know, fingers crossed, maybe sometime next year at some point we might get an opportunity to do Daredevil 3. But that, I am not privy to any of those conversations, so I have no idea if that's real or not.
I always like to bring it back to the show. What do you hope audiences take away with them from Incognito?
Oh, really good question. When we're not in scenes, when the actors aren't in a particular scene, we sit on the stage, which is a really interesting experience, because we get to see the other actors do their scenes, and I've been able to witness how those scenes have kind of changed. But as a byproduct, I'm listening to these scenes over and over and over again every night. And I guess it's the part of the mind, it's the part of the spirit, it's the part of the brain that you can't label, that you can't cut open and study and look at and say that's where these feelings come from. That's where the you know, empathy lies, or that's where love lies, in the brain, or in the, you know what I mean? It's the unexplainable aspect of being a human being, and I think that's probably the most touching part of the play, because I listen to that communication and between those 2 characters, and I see that relationship grow each night. There's something quite comforting, scary, but also quite comforting about the recognition that you can't just dice up a human brain and discover everything there is to discover about what it is to be a human being.
It's wonderful. Charlie Cox, thank you very much.